way it took place or at Hampstead. I believe it's Hampstead. But only three things I remember. The speaker was an English or Irish pastor. Pastor Neil thinks it could be Pastor Boyle. I am not even sure. There's only one thing he said that I remember. And what he said was 10-5. 10-5. That was an offering plan. And for the last 38 years, it's got me a little bit. For the last 38 years, I have followed that plan, and it has been transformational in my life. Only one person. There's a saying that one person can change your destiny. And that one idea, that one seed that was put in my head all those years ago, I know has changed my life. So you have a person, you have a seed, you have a fruit, you have a harvest. Can I have the, you won't be able to see this here, sorry. Don't just move that for me. On the screen we have personal giving plan 10-4-1. When it was presented to us, it was just presented at 10-5. But I'll explain the 4-1 later on. If there's a box for each of those headings, most of you could tick two of the boxes. You give, and you give personally, right? But the last part is what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on the planning side of your giving. So my dream is that one person will leave here today with a plan on how they give. And the focus is not going to be on how much you give is very important, but the focus is going to be on how you give. We want you to give smart, and that's where the planning side comes into it. Could I have the next one, please? No, the one before. 2 Corinthians 9:7 says, "Every man, according as he purposeth in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver." Notice it says every man. Sometimes we hear folks pray in church and they say, "Bless those who did not give." We are talking about everybody here being able to give. And that word purposeth in his heart. We have to give with a purpose. When a farmer plants a seed, he expects a specific result from that seed. He expects a harvest. When we give, let us give with purpose. Let us give with planning attached to our giving. The word for cheerful in the original language means hilarious. There's got to be joy in our giving. And I like that connection with God. It feels as if it's saying to me, God delights when we give cheerfully. God delights when we give big. Counsels on Stewardship, page 180. It says, God's providence has arranged the entire plan for systematic benevolence for the benefit of man. What does the word systematic mean? Regular? Order, well done. System, well done. And planned. So all these things are involved in systematic giving. Next slide, please. This is the main screen that we will work with today. The personal giving plan, 10-4-1. Okay, personal giving plan, 10-4-1. I am not going to concentrate so much on the amount, the percentage. I am concentrating more on the 4-1, and I'm going to come to that later on. How much is your tithe? Or a tenth? I was thinking, did you have to think about that? Why is that embedded so much in your mind? It's in the Bible. The PR for tithing is perfect. Everybody knows. There's no ambiguity about tithing. We all know that it's 10%. It's a tenth Okay, so a good work has been done on tithing. We come to church offering. I have got in bracket 5%. I have been a 10-5 giver all these 38 years. I give 10 for my tithe and I give 5% for my offering. There have been times in my experience when I've gone up. One thing I've noticed, and I think it's the main lesson I have learned from having a plan, you never fall below what the plan is. I have never gone to 4.5. I've never gone to 3. I've always been at 5 and above. I don't know how that works, but God makes it work that you stay within the plan that you have, the pledge or the plan that you have decided on. So I want you to concentrate on the 4-1. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to concentrate on the left-hand side of this diagram. Forget the figures on the right, okay? So we have church offering. What's the big 2 questions about church offering? There are 2 questions, big questions. How much? Yeah? How much? We all have to make that decision. I've made that decision a long time ago. How much? And the next question is, how much do you give to the different elements in our offering? Because we have the church expense or budget offering, we have missions offering, and we have church building offering. So that's the big issue that we have to decide, because we want a balance. Okay? I've got the total. The total is the tithe and the church offering, and that we'll come to that when we add up later on. So the offering breakdown is the very crucial part here. And what you have to do, you have to divide your offering into 5 parts, okay? And we were told, and I have followed this, of giving 4 parts to the church budget or the church expense. 4 parts. We will look at an alternative later on. But 4 parts go to church budget or church expense, and 1 part goes to the rest. So 1 part is divided between missions and church building. Okay? So we've covered the 2 big questions regarding offerings. How much you give and how you break that down into... Can you see, Jess? Yeah. Oh, okay. So those 2 questions are covered. Brother Danny, can you read Deuteronomy 16, verse 7 for me, please? And this is to do with our offerings.
Deuteronomy 16, verse 17. Every man shall give as he is able according to the blessing of the Lord your God, which he has given you.
Okay. So it's saying that each of us must bring a gift. I like that word gift. In proportion to the way God has blessed you. So it's in proportion to the way that God has blessed you. That's why giving is in percentages. It has to be in proportion to the way God has blessed us. God asks us for 10%, and we have to decide how much we are going to give to Him. Offerings are an expression of love and gratitude to God. We are talking about God first all weekend. So our offerings are an expression of love and gratitude to God. Offerings must be equitable. This side of the church shouldn't be carrying the burden for this side of the church. This side of the church should be given just as much as this side of the church. Last quarter in our stewardship lessons, one of the things that has stuck with me most of all, Paul speaking to the Corinthians, he says to them, you shouldn't be burdened because some are not giving. The load should be felt by everyone. So our offering giving, it should be equitable. It should be free will. I have an issue with free will. I prefer to emphasize the will part of free will. I don't like the idea of free will being given when you want to. You have to make a decided decision that you will always give. So the will part is very important. I'm going to show you this chart here. I hope you can. They didn't have any very thick marker pen, so I hope you can see this. On this side is our tithe, yeah? And we know that's 10%. So I've broken it down into 10 parts, yeah? The offering on that side is blank. I have to now decide how much offering, well, I've told you how much I'm going to give. The individual has to decide, are they going to give God 1 part? Are they going to give God 3 parts, 6 parts, whatever? I was tempted to put 0.5, but I know nobody will give 0.5. We have to give God something on that scale. If you give 2.5 and greater, your church is surviving. If you give 3, 4, 5, your church will meet all its budget needs. Pastor Mbui used to always say to us at Chiswick, your church shouldn't just survive, it should thrive. So along that scale, if you get up to 5, your church is sailing. There was a time at Chiswick when our tithe income for the year was 160,000, and we were on 2, average of the church was on 2%. So we got 32,000 for our budget. So we were just about surviving. But imagine if we were up to 3 and 4 and 5, we could do so much that the church had in its plans. So anything above 2.5 average giving, the church will meet its needs. So I hope that has been a little help in how you decide to give. Anywhere along that scale, it's up to you. But remember, if you give too low or below 3, your church is just about holding its own. If you give higher up the scale, and everyone across the board is doing that, your church will be doing very well. Okay, so let's go to the left-hand side of the screen. My tithe is 120. My offering is 60. And the total, which is the church, which is a tithe and the church offering added, comes up to 180. I've decided to break that down 4 to 1. So 4 parts of this is 48, isn't that right? 4 12s are 48. So I'm giving 48 to the church expense. I'm sure some of you are going to think that's an awful lot, and the others have got too little. Because there is 6, we've divided the 1 part, the £12, 6 for mission and 6 for the church building. Can anyone tell me why I have given church building only £6? Well done. Our sister here has spotted it. I've only given church building £6. There's going to come a time when it's closer to the building the church when I probably will have to give more. But it takes average 15 years for a church to get its church. So I can be giving that in all those years leading up to the 2 or 3 years before we start looking at building our church. So I've only given church building £6. Because, so you see that, 48, that's 4 parts. The 1 part is divided into 2, so I'm giving 6 and 6, yeah? Then I come to the gift aid. The gift aid is the total, I am getting gift aid on everything. I'm getting gift aid on the 180, and that's going to work out at 45 a month. In the red, it's how much the church will get back. The church gets back just under half of it, which would be the £22. So the building is catered for because in the next column, G, it tells you that the church will get the £6 that you gave for building offering, and it will get the £22 that will come back on the gift aid. So there's £28 for church building. So I don't need to compromise the budget given to give more to the building. Later on, I'll show you another example where you can give more to your building. The church expense, look at that nice figure for church expense, 48 a month. When you multiply that for a year, £576 is for your church budget. Because what's happening in many places, our church budget offering is suffering because the balance is not right. Sometimes the building agenda is pushed so strongly and the budget agenda doesn't get pushed. And so people give magnificently to the building offering, but the budget offering, we are struggling in many places. So we've got, even if you don't follow that 4-to-1 principle, always have it in the mind that the bigger amount of your offering has to be for your budget or for your expense, yeah? You see people sometimes give big amounts for missions offering. That's fine, that's fine. You know, God could impress you once in a while to do that. But it can't be a regular thing. Your budget offering, your expense offering is where your focus and your emphasis should be. So that's the simple plan. I'm going to show you with a different percentage. This was based on 5%. I'm going to show you based on 4%. I'm just going over these so that by the time I have finished, you have got this firmly in your mind in case a member says to you, because new members are always saying to us, how do I give my offering? Yeah, our sister here asks a question.
For gift aid refund, you have to be a taxpayer.
Yes, so, sorry, I should have mentioned. And gift aid is going to be mentioned later on. You have to be a taxpayer to benefit from the gift aid system, brother.
Yes, I would like to know, how do you calculate the offering percentage? Is it from, you take the 10%, you tithe and off your tithe,
Mm-hmm.
10% from the what we call it, from your total income. What's the
Yeah.
gross?
Oh. Net or gross, it doesn't matter. Yeah,
Gross.
yeah, okay.
All right. Do you take the same from the gross or after you deduct? Are you getting what I'm asking?
I think I'm getting what you mean, but
For instance, your gross was £100.
that's right.
Right, you gave £10. All right, your 4% that you may choose for your offering.
You take it from
the 90.
no, from the 100. Yeah, that's what I would take it from the 100. I've always, yeah, because otherwise the percentage has changed, hasn't it? Because the way I'm telling you this, this is 10% and this is 10%. If I'm taking this from the 90, that kind of changes the equation. I've never had that question before, but it's a good question. But I've always taken it from, even if you do gross or net, it's based on, the tithe is based on it and the offering is based on it. Yeah? But, yeah. There was a question here?
First one's real quick. Mission, is that the same as Sabbath school?
Missions offering is for the work of the church across the world, the institutions, the mission. Sabbath school offering sometimes in some churches means the same as mission, but I have known in churches where Sabbath school offering means an offering for the expenses in Sabbath school. I don't know if that's if I've got that right, but world missions offering is for the world church. Pastor Todd.
The role of the South England Conference, because in the tithe envelope before, I don't know with the new tithe envelope, it's only a world mission, there is no Sabbath school. And in the board meeting in our church, we decided that the Sabbath school will be the world mission. So there was no directives from the South England Conference, what is this? And the loose offerings will be going to the to the church budget. So, is this matter will be left into the church board to decide, or there is a direct directives from the South England Conference?
But-
From the new tight envelopes that we have printed, we have made it clear now here that it's Sabbath school offerings or Sabbath school offering. We didn't put mission offering because there's a confusion there. What's mission offering and Sabbath school offering? We just put now Sabbath school offering. Yes, we need to educate more of our members that mission offering or Sabbath school offering are mission offering basically. But to get rid of that confusion, we just have changed it on the envelope that it's just Sabbath school offering. So
there's something I learned here today. Thank you very much, Pastor Todd. Sorry, I'll just go. Sorry, no, back to you.
The main question I had was on the tithe. You just mentioned that there's no difference between gross and net. It's a really big difference.
No, okay, yeah, there is a difference, but it's up to the individual to make that decision.
It's because if you manage your whole finances, which a lot of people do on percentages, I do,
Mhm.
if that bracket changes into the 40 percentile, your 10% makes a massive difference, and you find that if you're trying to do 10 and 5, you end up left with less than 50 for yourself,
Mhm.
and it can be quite tight. So, I mean, I'm working towards 5, but I'm on about 2.5 at the moment, and a lot of people keep asking me and I've had this question come 3 times in my church, if it says first fruits, is it not gross? And I understand it as gross.
Yeah, this is a totally big issue, and it needs a different forum to. But
I guess my question is it okay to flex that 5?
yeah, no, this 5 wasn't. This 5 was me. No, this 5 is me. But I've said before that it's up to you. It's free will. It's up to you to decide. You prayerfully ask God and work with God what you can do. But the most important thing is that you are doing it. God is what the verse that says, "I am more interested in obedience than sacrifice." The faithful God will bless your faithfulness, your systematic giving.
Yeah.
Sister?
No,
So-
hold
so-
on.
That's your personal.
Yeah. This is a personal example.
Yes.
So that's not sanctioned by the South.
No.
He said that.
Because you can give 10 if you want.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was coming to the Sabbath school, but I was saying in my church, we are suggesting that people give their tithe from their income, because that's what the Bible, income, right? So income is your gross. Just to go back to Pastor Todd, the Sabbath school, in my church, we have a Sabbath school offering in the bag. We collect a Sabbath school offering every week. So where does that go? Because now if the envelopes, no, Pastor Todd says that the new envelope has got Sabbath school on it. So, but we are still collecting our Sabbath school offering in our classes. So what's the difference?
Can I answer that? Because I'm from the same church, and we have said it time and time again. It has been said by the stewardship department, not just the stewardship department, but the finance department, that have made this very clear, that when we give our offering in Sabbath school, it's the offering that's given to missions, except when you actually specify that this offering that we're going to take, apart from the normal Sabbath school offering, is expense. So there are some churches who will do that. They will have a separate bag for Sabbath school expense, and it is not necessary, because the budget for Sabbath school can come out of the other church budgets. It can be catered for there. So, but the offering that is collected in Sabbath school has been specified time and time again that it is for missions.
So why is it now on the envelope that says Sabbath school?
well, yeah. Well, it used to say World Mission before, but now, yeah, we just put Sabbath school just to take away the confusion. But there's one thing that we are now promoting around the conference as I go around as well. I wasn't able to bring this up at Tottenham West Green Road, but there's several churches now like Edmonton, Enfield, and there's is it Edmonton or Enfield? Yeah, that are practicing a one giving. What we mean by that is we are encouraging our members that when they come to church, they would be prepared through the envelope that whatever they are giving, it would all be done here, placed here, whether it's Sabbath school offering, 13 Sabbath's birthday offering, tithes, or even for the church local expense, so that we are actually giving a very positive picture, even for our visitors, that we do not keep on collecting money, one here and one there, but we will just all be collecting it during the hour of worship. And with that, we are actually educating our members to be systematic givers. But with churches who are still, I know some people or some churches would still want to collect during Sabbath school, but what we would encourage them is for facilitators to give envelopes during Sabbath school so that they could put their Sabbath school offering there and just tell them, well, put it during that hour of worship. And so it will just all be one offering during the hour of worship. And with that, there's a lot of benefit. It would help your church treasurer in their counting, just one counting. And also, when it comes to gift aid, all of your giving would be gift aided, even the Sabbath school. But because if you give on loose offering, yes, we still could give aid up to 8,000 pounds per church per year on loose offering. But I would always say to churches, reserve that for visitors. But those who could give through the envelope and could be gift aided through the envelope, let's use, and practice one giving.
You're the last one for the questions.
Yes, no, but I just want to commend Pastor Todd for that clarification and that encouragement. I think it shows a lot of clarity, because a lot of the churches where you have the basket passing through in the Sabbath school lesson, it's a lot of just loose giving. And most times, my experience, that loose giving, it continues loosely also in the divine. Yeah. So there is not a systematic way of giving. It's almost like dipping in pocket to see if I have another loose pong in my pocket. If you give your kids, money to do their offering, then that is the kids pushing their hands in their pocket. Yeah. Even then, parents should help their kids to give systematically. But I want to also encourage the gift aider. For instance, I'm a gift aider. And when I see the basket pass, I almost feel bad not putting in something in it. Yeah. But yet my envelope is in my pocket for the divine. So people think I'm only giving to divine. But my divine has mission, world radio, church expense, building, and tithe. It have all that. So when I give, I don't have to let people to determine what I give. I give because of my own conviction. And there's one point regarding the growth and the income.
I think we got to leave that issue. But from what you've all said, what it proves is that you've got to plan your giving.
Yes.
Planned giving will eliminate all these issues that we have discussed. Yes. And if we give the right amount to our church budget, church expense, we won't have all these different collections going there. So this has proved that we need to be more strategic in our whole approach to offering and giving. We need to take time. Some of the information you got from the North American division that you got in your booklets, when I see what their finance committees have to do and their stewardship leaders have to do, they've left us way, way behind. There are some places where we don't even want to talk about money. Money has to come back on the agenda. We are not going anywhere if we haven't got a proper approach to money, personally and as churches. We have to move on. If a member says to you, brother, I'm not happy with giving so much to church expense, I want to give a little bit more to the building. So you could say to that brother, let's do a 3-2, okay? We give 3-2. 3 to the church budget, church expense. How much would that be here? That would be 36, wouldn't it? If I give 3 parts, 3 12s, 36. And I give 2 parts, 1 for mission, 12, 1 for church building, 12, yeah? And you can do that way. Recently, when we had our church building project, I switched from 4 to 1 to 3 to 2. You can be flexible. And so you just let the treasurer, the people doing the administrative side of it, know that you've made a change. And so I gave 36, and I gave 12 to missions and 12 to the building. It still benefited. Church building.
Can you change this slide? Because I think the other slide shows that what you're talking
No. Yeah, no. Yeah, I had a different figure. I had a 4% figure. Huh? No, I'm just it's not on there. You have to work that out yourself. Yeah. So I said 3 to 2. If you give 3 parts, you give 36, and you give 1, and you give 12 to missions and 12 to the building. So that was, but there doesn't seem many ways you can get into 5 except 4 to 1 and 3 to 2. And giving, or you could do 2.5 and 2.5. So this is an approach. One of the, I'm closing off now, the benefits. What are the benefits? And I'm sure you've seen the benefits as we have discussed here. You know how much to give. You know which elements to concentrate your giving on. Your giving is smart, your giving is sustainable, and you give with quality. The other thing about having a plan, giving becomes a lifestyle. You don't have to be forced into giving. There are many times I give this way, direct debit, but the basket passes in church. And the Spirit tells me to give. I don't put the £10 in the basket. I make sure I get an envelope. Every penny I put in the basket. And I learned that from their stewardship leader, Stephen. Everything I put in it hurts me when I see the basket go along and pastor puts a £20 note in. I feel like grabbing it and putting it in an envelope. Everything that you put into the basket. So giving becomes a way of life. You think every penny in God's treasury can be used big time. You going to say something?
Yes, but the visitors, when they use the envelope, then if they put their gift aid, that gift aid goes to their church.
Yeah, but it's still benefiting. It might not benefit locally, but even just blanket everybody. If you're giving big money, put it in an envelope. Even if you don't benefit locally, somebody benefits. Yeah.
So you meant to say that...
Actually, let's leave gift aid because we're going to come back to gift. Keep your gift aid questions for the gift aid section. I mentioned to you the main lesson I learned about following a plan is that you never fall below what you have pledged to give to the Lord. And that's, I'm amazed at how you managed to say. Sister mentioned that she's on a level. God will work with you. You will always, I can say it in faith, you will either stay on that level or God will bring you up. Let me tell you a brief story to close. There was one time I was given 10.5. God had blessed me and my income had gone up. I was given 10.5, yeah? You understand what that means? I'm giving 10 for tithe, and my offering was 10.5. And there was a Sabbath when it snowed, and we couldn't go to church. And so I was at home, and I love to play with offering figures. You know the people that you see at the railway stations taking photos of trains and buses? I'm like that when it comes to offerings. I'm a bit of an anorak when it comes to offerings. And I was playing with my offering figures, and a voice said to me, you're on 10.5, that's a little bit, go up to 11, it's nice and an even number. And another voice is saying, no. And the second voice is never God's voice. God's voice will never tell you give less. And so I listened to the first voice, and I decided to go up to 11, and that was my pledge. And that day, a letter came through the door. Because it was Sabbath, I didn't open the letter. After sunset, I opened the letter. And in that letter, it said, someone has left you something. Go to such and such a solicitor. I didn't recognize the name. I found out later that it was a man on my street. I used to help do his garden. And when he died, he left me 2,000 in his will. And my connection is that God was saying to me, your faithfulness in increasing your giving, your faithfulness in trusting me, this is what I will show you. Giving in a planned way, giving the way God expects and wants us to give, the cheerful giving that he wants from us is transformational. The other thing, and this is the last thing, the other thing about giving like this, it allows you to dream big. That was mentioned earlier on. You can dream big if you give like this. There's nothing that we want to do that we can't do if we give like this. If 50 people are giving like this, that's like 16,000. I always have a figure in my mind of 60, a church of 50 people. If 50 people give like this, that's 16,000. The church building, and I think it's more for the budget. And just imagine churches with 150 and bigger churches. And I am basing this on a very, this actually is my income. I'm on a national health pension, so it's not huge yet. And this is very small figures. And if I can give, or somebody on this level can give 570 something pounds to church budget, the average would be a lot higher than that. And so this has shown me over the years that God has made all the provisions possible for his church to prosper, for his church to thrive. Let us bow our heads as we close this session. Lord, I thank you for the pastor who 38 years ago dropped that seed about planned giving into our hearts. Lord, I don't know if anyone else remembers that, but I was the one person that was meant for, and Lord, it's done so much for me. And my prayer as I close here now, Lord, may someone leave this place with a plan, with a figure in their mind that they will give to you. And as they go back to their churches, may this presentation in some way help them to be able to share with members a wise, a systematic, and a thriving way of giving, so that lives can be transformed, your work can grow, and you, Lord, can get the praise, and you can get the glory. Lord, hear this prayer because I've asked it in Jesus' name. Amen.